Just a minute. Zach.
Just a minute. Okay, sorry.
What about transportation?
Transportation.
About walking, or is...
We do a lot of walking, except in the heat. Now, we will usually take either a taxi, which has air conditioning, or an auto rickshaw. Very inexpensive. Our Kingdom Hall is probably 2 to 3 miles away from our home. For 50 to 60 rupees, a little under $1, we can go one way. So.
The camel, when Bhattacharya's came to visit in February, Seema and I always wanted to ride a camel. And so after touring the Amber Fort, we stopped at this place. I got to ride Sultan, and they got to ride Raj. And it was fun. I mean, they don't really have them for transportation there, but they are for riding as such as they do use them for carrying loads. Have a little cart behind them, and the guy sitting there. So we see him working once in a while.
So now we'll show you some amusing things that we've seen. Maybe. Here we go. Amusing. The lower left-hand corner is a sign that we found in a food court at a mall. The thing that tickled us, it says, "Do not occupy the table for reading tuitions, chatting, surfing, matrimonial meetings, or business meetings." Apparently just eat and get out. And we thought it was cute. All kinds of couples were sitting around the sign, by the way. Didn't matter. Upper left-hand corner. While the construction in India seems to be getting better, upper left-hand corner. Did I say right? Yeah. Okay, upper left-hand corner. The construction is better. We watched them put lots and lots of rebar into the buildings that they're building, such as the one that this happened in. Plumbing is not attached to rebar. It's an awful sinking feeling when you get on a toilet that does this.
Yeah, the only thing that's holding the toilet to the wall is the water
Supply
supply.
It happened twice in our apartment. No, it wasn't me both times. The bus right next to it is not an uncommon sight. Those people were protesting. I think that day was the day that they were protesting because the Meena family were making more money than the Meena family. M-I-N-A, M-E-E-N-A. Why they were getting more money, I don't know. I don't think the protest did any good. But they got a day off from work and rode the bus. Next to it, yes, they really are selling that. It's fuel for fire. Dried cow poop. We call it the local cat paddy wagon. Fuel stuff, I don't know. They use it for cooking their food. Yeah.
It's one of the things that really drew my attention when we were there on our 3-week trip. You'd see just stacks of them in a circle, a spiral thing, and then you'd see just almost fences with them. You'd see them up on the houses, on the roofs, and they're just all over. It's like, I couldn't figure out what they're feeding the cows in India that when they poop, it's perfectly round and flat. I just couldn't figure it out.
They're about the size of a frisbee. Yes.
Is that from sacred cows?
Yes.
All of them are sacred cows, yes.
So, and that you're not supposed to mess with the cows. Well, you can mess with this stuff. There was one little girl when her mom was milking the cow, and after it had pooped, she goes over and she scoops it up, and she went around the corner, and there was a round stone, and she put it on there, and she flattened it out and smoothed it around, and then she'd scoop it up and go out and lay it in the field until it would dry. And it's not any different than the Westerners when they first started across the states. They'd pick up the buffalo chips, the cow chips and stuff, and throw them under the wagons for fuel and heat. Well, I just never figured walking to the market we'd see a cart with
Them sold.
fuel.
In the upper right-hand corner, of course, it's an elephant, right in the middle of traffic. Slowed things down a bit. The girls bought this little tool for the kitchen, and they got to reading the packaging and thought, it's a multi-purpose tool. Multi-purpose, friends, multi-purpose. But there it's a multi-purpose tool.
And then we got to reading the instructions on the back. It was.
Worse still. The gentleman in the picture is one of Darlene's doctors. She goes to this homeopathic doctor. And he was trying to figure out her remedy for the day. And while I was sitting behind Darlene, I see this on the wall. I'm going, you're kidding me. It's one of their gods. That's Ganesh. He was scotched, taped to the wall. He must have fallen down a few too many times. I don't know. It struck me funny, so I gently took out my camera and took a picture. Anyway, little humorous to us. Oh, come on. I gotta get close to the computer. How loads are carried. Mostly we took these pictures because of the motorcycles. We find it humorous what they can put onto a motorcycle. The truck up in the upper left-hand corner, we see loads like that around here, right? Maybe not clothes or clothing or cloth, but that's not so amusing. But all these, this guy actually had 5 or 6 of these propane tanks on his motorcycle to deliver them to homes. That's not uncommon. The 4 boys on the motorcycle, that's kind of a small load. We've seen more. And most of these motorcycles are 100 to 150 cc motorcycles. Small engines for us here, right? So, the big picture in the center at the bottom, that's the local road crew getting ready to go out for work one morning. They do have the machines that chew up the asphalt, but apparently they didn't buy the sweeper. And so you'll have a half a dozen or more women out there with hand brooms, squatted down with these brooms, sweeping the road. Labor's cheap. The sweeper machine wasn't, apparently.
When they do go to put dirt down, when they're doing road work, then the guys are there and they have these little shovels that they'll, scoop the dirt out onto the road, and then the women will come by and help to sweep it and level it out. Some of the people that we saw in our neighborhood, we just wanted to show you some of the diversity, the children and the adults. On the left-hand side, second picture down, you see the yellow-topped vehicle. That's an auto rickshaw. So we ride those quite frequently. No little guy has to pedal us around. They've got an engine in there. It's got one wheel on the front and has a motorcycle engine in it. Takes 3 Westerners or 12 Indians. Yeah. And the poor little children, little kids under the word people in the middle there. There was a little housing complex just at the bottom of our apartment. We were in the 9th floor. And those little kids would see us and they'd start screaming, hi, hi, hi. So we'd wave back to them and have a lot of fun. They'd see us as we get off the tuk-tuks and go into the house, and they'll run up on top of the house and hi, hi. And so one day I decided I was going to do jumping jacks. And they're hi, 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 and I did jumping jacks. They're like, and then they tried to do it, and they couldn't quite get the coordination going. But the little guy, he, when we would stand outside waiting for the taxi to come or for the tuk-tuk driver, the kids would see us and they go, hi, and run back into the compound, get the other kids, and they come back out, and some of the adults are like, what are you guys saying? And, they look at the kids and then they look at us, and we're standing there smiling and everything. Well, it was touching to the parents too to see that. Well, one of the guys picks up this little boy to go over, because the girls came over and shook my hand. He didn't want to. So he picks him up, brings him over to me, he's going, no, no, no. So I says, okay, well, we'll do it at a distance. Before we came here, almost 10 months, 11 months later, we had to go back over to where the apartment was to talk to an electrician. These kids seen us. Around the corner they come, hi, hi, running up to us, and all of them shook our hand, even the little guy. I think he was the first one up there.
The stance, I don't figure out how this is comfortable. I guess I'll talk to you for the rest of the way here because I can't straighten up now.
Oh, did you hear that crack?
Yeah, but they've done it all their life, and that's kind of the position that the ladies sweep in too. Other than, this was the first long-handled broom that we saw in India. Most of them, it's just the batch of grass, and they're sweeping with that. So, questions?
On the top right with everybody wearing red scarves.
Well, actually, that's a school uniform. It's gray, except the sleeves are red in this case. But uniforms are typical for schooling. Schooling is also, how do I want to say it, paid for by the parents. It's not government sponsored. If you want to go to school, you must pay for it if you want your children to go to school. And we'll get into it a little bit more later, but girls are not valued in Indian culture still, although they're trying to change that a bit. But it's still an undercurrent there. So if the family doesn't have enough money, guess who doesn't go to school? It's the girl children. It makes us sad, but it happens there.
Do the brothers wear the tie and shirts in service? Or
Not the tie,
just a
just
shirt?
a dress shirt and dress slacks. Yeah. Just like the foreign brothers. Again, it doesn't draw attention because of the RSS. It's still considered dressy. The business people don't wear ties and suits. Even like the bankers don't wear suit and tie. It's dress slacks and a dress shirt. It's too hot by and large. Yeah. So they dress a little more for comfort, but it's dressed up compared to the people out on the street. Okay. Yes?
Is there a lot of people from other countries living there and working there?
There's a few living there and working there. Work from foreigners is not recommended or encouraged by the Indian government unless it's something that they really, really need. So we're not there on a work visa. We can't do work while we're in India. We're there strictly on a tourist visa. The Constitution of India allows us as tourists or anyone that's in the boundaries of India to have free speech, to preach if we want to. But like I said earlier, it's not always safe to do so. So that's why we don't do the public preaching. But work, we would not be allowed to do that. If they caught us working in India and making rupees, we'd be considered taking work away from the natives and they would deport us. Some of the friends that are working as need graders in the country bring internet type work with them, things that they can do online. For employers that are in the United States, the money goes into banks in the United States and there's no transactions in India. So they've let their conscience allow that kind of work so that they can continue their work over there and then just pull their money from their US account into India and spend it there. Yes?
Does it rain? It looks as bad as here.
A little worse. We get, 9 to 12 inches a year, usually in about a month and a half. Of course, I know here you got like 3 inches in the last 3 years, but that's not normal.
What about infrastructure, water, internet, electricity? Is it reliable?
Sometimes. In our apartment, the internet was spotty. It would be up and down, and when it was up, we had great internet, but you couldn't count on it every day. Electricity, you could count on an outage every day. Water, most of the time, was good there. The apartment complex, they didn't pay their bill once, and so we were without water for a few hours until we all got on his case. But in the house that we are now in, we're with another internet company, and we've only had outages like 3 times in the last month and a half, and very short periods of time. Just a couple electrical outages, and everything else has been great.
The longest electrical was when, was it lightning struck the transformer? And then it somehow, when they did some road work, they chipped the covering on the wires in the road, a gravel road. And so when it hit that transformer, it also blew some at that point. So it was almost 36 hours we were without. So it made for long trips up and down 9 floors with no elevator and the heat, and we survived.
It's part of India.
It's a 9-story building, that's where you live?
That's where we lived to begin with when we were there, yeah.
And how did you get your apartment?
We had a brother that helped us find a broker that helped us find the apartment. The brother is a ministerial servant in the congregation, and he was with us for like 2 or 3 days as we drove around and looked at several apartments. The one that we went with was the very first apartment we looked at, but we wanted to see what our other choices were. And it ended up being the better choice, a brand new apartment building. But a few little problems, like we just said. About a month and a half before we came back here, we were walking down the road, and this car comes screaming by us, slams on the brakes, and stops in front of us. We're like, okay, what's the problem? Who is it? It ended up being the broker that got us our first apartment. And they just saw us and were happy to see us and wanted to say hello.
How they get out of the car, and I'm like, okay.
And just wanted to see what was going on in our life. They knew we were going to be coming back to the States, and we said, yeah, about a month and a half, we're coming back to the States. After we come back, though, we want to look for a house. I've got a house right now. I was like, no. He said, come see it, you've got to see it, it's so nice. So we went and looked at it, and it was so nice and we couldn't pass it up. So we moved a month and a half before coming back to the States. We were in a 3-bedroom, 3-bath apartment on the 10th floor, fully furnished. It was costing us about $500 US a month. That was going to be going up by the time we got back. The house cost us about $600 a month for the 3 of us, so not too bad. It's about 3,000 square feet, 3-bedroom, 4 full baths, marble floors. How can you pass that up, right? And lots of room for company. Anybody want to come to India? All right, Bo?
The religious diversity in that city, you said it's an old city, so are there some real established temples and such like that that exert a real strong religious influence on people?
Well, the country and the city is primarily either Hindu or Muslim. Probably 65 to 70% Hindu, 25 to 35% Muslim. The remainder, just a small percentage, are either nominal Christian or Jain or Buddhist. There's a few others. So Hinduism is always going to exert a lot of pressure on people. There are some temples, but if people are going to those temples, it's usually tourists that flock to the ones that are really, really popular. So even the Indians, as they're touring India, they'll come to Burla Temple to get their special blessing, but do their neighborhood temples, their family temples, and such the rest of the time. Remember, in Hinduism, there's 330 million gods. So they can find a god wherever they go.
So talking to people is easy. Just a political thing.
Extremely easy. It's just like Paul when he traveled through Athens, went up to the Areopagus and talked to him about the unknown God. Well, we do that a lot. We talk to them about Jehovah because they've never heard about Jehovah. And they wonder a lot why we know Hindi. Well, it's because of being Jehovah's Witnesses, and JW.org had a lot to do with our teaching us Hindi. Yes.
An Indian lady said to me that, yes, we have millions of gods, but we know there's only one creator. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, well, they try to give him a different name, though. But yeah, they're willing to listen to just about anybody talk about any god. They don't want to offend anyone. And life is just a circle. It's all going to come around and be the same anyway. So it's almost pointless to talk to a Hindu that's not willing to be open-minded. We still try, but they talk in circles just like their religion talks in circles. They do this reincarnation thing in Hinduism. If you're bad, you go to a lower life form. If you're good, you go to a higher life form. You've probably heard about this. But we ask them, well, if you go to a lower life form, you're a bad human, you go, say, to be a cockroach, how do you know that you're improving yourself? They don't have an answer, but they start talking in circles again. Reasoning with them is difficult unless they want to reason. And that's what we're finding, is many people are disillusioned with their religion, just as they are in this country and many other countries around the world. Religion has not given them good answers. Hinduism does not give answers, it just gives them a God to pray to. And their gods, by and large, are not happy gods. Many are warring gods and hateful, spiteful gods. One of their gods was so mad at his son, according to legend, he chopped his head off. His mama was also a goddess, so she fixed him by putting an elephant's head on him. You saw him earlier, that was Ganesh. He's the god of good fortune. How did that happen? Lucky to be alive? I don't know. Things related to false worship. Some of the things that we see frequently in India, this is a festival called Holi. Maybe you've seen it as a color run. Have you heard of the color runs? It may not be related to Holi. I'm not saying that it is. It may be. We don't know. We're going to let you make your decision if you decide to go on one of these color runs. I just want to use a little illustration that may help you to think about it and your decision. Imagine if you saw pictures of your brothers and sisters in India with an evergreen in their living room with lots of lights and presents underneath it. Where would your mind automatically go? Yeah. You'd automatically think, those brothers are celebrating Christmas? So if they see their brothers and sisters in this country covered with the colors that they know to be associated with holy, where does their mind go? I'm not saying the color runs are wrong. You make your own decision. It may not even be at the same time of the year that they're doing these things, and it might just be all in fun. That's fine. Please don't post the pictures so our friends over there can see it then. Done.